getting up, but 8 o'clock, especially if you don't have too much to do, we can understand that. But as I said, as I always say, and I always do, I like to say I want to give my acknowledgments to my overseer, Apostle Ella J. Alexander of Victorious Living Faith Ministry, and um, what she has accomplished with the number of ministries that we have as well. I'm just trying to make sure everything is set on Facebook as well. As we know, we do broadcast on Facebook as well. We also broadcast on YouTube. And if you want to see us on YouTube, you just go to the title name, God in Jesus Christ Ministries, and 63, and you will see everything on that we discuss. Today we're going to be in the book. We're going to be in 3 books today, and we're going to get a good topic to this morning. We're going to be in the book of Matthew. We're also going to be in the book of Acts, and we're going to be in the book of First Peter. We're going to be talking about something that is relevant for today, that's relevant in our time and our day as well. A lot of us, we're going to reflect on some things that people go through right now, as they have been going through, I think, since church has begun, and that topic is, we're going to be talking in the next four series of church hurt. This is the first part of that series, so we're going to be talking about church hurt and the hypocrisy of it, and back in the day, things that have happened during the time Jesus when he was walking, and even today, what we go through, what some of us go through, and today's time of church as well. I want to thank everybody for joining and logging in. As I said, you could also see these videos also on our website as well. And the website is God in Jesus Christ Ministries.churchkey.com, and you can see it there. So we're going to get right into this sermon, because like I said, we don't want to hold you long. We're not going to try to stay too long. Then after we finish this, I'm off. Family and we're off to our church with Pastor Lee. Yeah, pastors also get their moments where they sit in church and just listen to another pastor preach. So in church hurt, we're going to reflect on the ways in which church has hurt people through its hypocrisy. Uh, this is something that also happened during the time when Jesus was walking. As you know, he was always challenged by the scribes and everything. But in our day, it's just a little different. And we also see just as the scribes in Jesus' time, they were challenged. Times were more concerned with being seen. So most time, the scribes and the Pharisees during their time, they being leaders, were more with being seen than really trying to doing the things that were needed to be done. Rather than truly living out their faith, we see hypocrisy within the church. And what we're going to do is we're going to turn to Matthew chapter 23, and we're going to see here where Jesus in Matthew 23. These right here. Okay. Now, we're gonna we're gonna see here where Jesus he begins to call out the scribes on their leadership, so to speak. And we see in 23, verse 1. Then Jesus spoke to the crowd and to his disciples, saying, I'm sorry about that. I'm reading from the New American Standard Bible, just so if you're following along. And to his disciples. The scribes and the Pharisees have seated themselves in the chair of Moses. Therefore, whatever they tell you, do and comply with it all. Now, what Jesus is saying, they're sitting in the leadership of Moses. They are the leaders who are leading the people spiritually and physically through laws. And he's telling them, whatever they tell you to do out of words, do comply with them in that fashion, to comply with them. And then he goes further on. Therefore, whatever they tell you to do, comply and do. Okay, comply with them and do it. And then he says, but do not do as they do, for they say things and do not do them. So in this phrase here, where he says, but, when you hear, a lot of times when you hear this word, but, in some conversations and somebody's telling you something, a lot of times that means there's something coming behind what they're saying. So what Jesus is telling them, what they're telling, when the scribes give you direction, or uh, um, they're telling you what the the day of the time of what they're teaching you in the religion, or they're giving you the basics of the law. You follow, you comply. But when you see them doing things, you do not you do not you do not follow what they do. So you don't want to follow what they do. So it's like the old saying, what some of our parents used to say, do as I say but not as I do. So that's what he wants you to kind of do. Follow their their instructions, but don't do as they do. Because what he says here, for they say things and do not do them. So they tell you to do such and such, but they do the opposite of what they told you to do. And they tie up heavy burdens and and laid them upon the people's shoulders, but they themselves are unwilling to move them with so much us their finger. So what he's also saying there, what Jesus also telling them, that they put a lot of burdens on you, like we seen with the man who was crippled for a long time, and none of the scribes or anybody tried to heal him or give him help. And Jesus comes along, he helps him, he tells him, get up, to go up and take your bed and go. So when the man gets up and walks, and he's walking and the scribes see him carrying his bed, they're upset because he's violating the law. And this is what Jesus was talking about. You're telling people not to do anything for the law, but in the same token, you yourself go out and you make sure the gates is closed, so your oxes and sheep don't get outside the gate. But here's a man who I healed, and now you're mad at him because he's carrying his bed, but you didn't even take the time to heal him. So this is what Jesus is saying. So it's the same. It's like the reverse of what today we have a lot of people that are in church, and they'll tell you certain things. They may say that you may come into church a certain way. Maybe you come in with your jeans and your half cut shirt. I remember one time I went to church to myself with shorts on and a t-shirt and sneakers. Not that I was, but at the time I was demanded to go because I was young and I was with my grandmother, my mother, and my mother asked me to go to church, and I was thinking, oh, the next Sunday, and it was no, right now, and I was told to go, and I went, and everything was good, but you could see eyes on me for coming into church the way I did. Sometimes people come because they're just, they're dressed that way. They may not have time to go home and change. Let's say you was out um, doing your regular job. You're out doing a regular job, your job, whatever your job is. Let's say you're not dressed for church. You may say you feel like you're not dressed for church, or you come in just whatever your street clothes, and you walk in. You walk into church, and it shouldn't be that people look at you and sigh and, oh, look how he's dressed. Oh, he couldn't go home and change. Maybe you didn't have time to go home and change. Maybe you just wanted to stop in and hear the word and get get the word within you and listen to the pastor preach and get the understanding. But people don't think that way. They feel, well, you should have went home, changed your clothes, put on a tie. Sometimes you don't need to put on a tie. There are times I went to church without a tie on. There are times I went to church just in my football attire, not my football attire, but my coaching attire. I would go Sunday mornings, before my game, I would stop off at the church, had all my football equipment, put it in the back of the church so I wouldn't disturb nobody, sit at the very back so I could just walk easily walk out. I sit down, put my bag out the way so nobody would. I'm sitting there in my football attire, my coaching stuff, and the pastor, he sees me and he just nods and waves and I wave back. And nobody really says anything at that moment. But just imagine if it was a different environment of a church and where people would look back, oh, look at him. He's got on that football stuff and look, he brought this bag in here and he's going to make all that noise when he goes to leave. They make issues a lot of things. There was another thing that was mentioned on YouTube. I think we probably heard it. Where a man was in church, the pastor was preaching, and we mostly all turn off our cell phones, or we put it on vibrate, and the phone went off. When the phone went off, he he clicked it so it would go off, and everybody looked at him, you know, and then when service was over, the pastor looks at him because the pastor's doing his word, and he sees that your phone went off, and he's back going home with his wife, and his wife is arguing, fussing with him. So the man gets up, he leaves, he goes to a bar. He's sitting at the bar, and he's so frustrated by what had happened in church, so distraught that he when he goes to pick up the glass to drink, he drops it. Glass breaks. Everybody rushes to him, and he's ready for them to all of a sudden attack him with, why'd you drop the glass? Why you break the glass? The bartender just says, are you all right? Are you okay? I'll get you another drink. Cleans up whatever happened. A few other people say, you okay? You all right? And at that moment, he felt much better at the bar than he was at the church. I remember when doing um, in studio, we have the same kind of thing. Tell everybody turn off their phones, either turn it off or put it on vibrate. A few times we had phones go off, or you can hear them vibrating. And I remember one time I had told the show was Dr. Lewis, and he was in the middle of the show, and He was talking, and all of a sudden, the phone went off. His phone went off. When his phone went off, in the control room, me and Jason, we're laughing. We're hysterical. We're saying the phone just went off. I said, this phone just went off. And he turns on the phone. So Dr. Lewis made a comical thing about it. He said, "Oh, I think the father's calling me right now." And I pressed the mic to say something to him. I said, "Yeah, he's telling you to make sure you next time make sure your phone is off." And I clicked back off, and we just cracked up about it. But we tend to understand we're human beings. Things happen. And a church is a place for healing. A church is a place for compassion. And when those things happen, it should just be compassion. There's times my phone had went off and I'm pushing and grabbing it. Sometimes I just look around to see if anybody really notices. Some people notice it, and some people kind of chuck, kind of like smile, like, okay, you caught it in time. But we should be more considerate and compassion, because the church is a place for healing, and the church is a place for people to understand that everybody, being that we're human, we're all not perfect. We're human, and we're going to make mistakes. And so what Jesus is also saying is that you scribes, you tell the people to do all these things, but you put this burden on them for these things to be so this and that, but yet you're not that. You do the very opposite. And this is what he's saying to them, and not willing to bear any burdens that they bear. And they were more concerned, the scribes and the Pharisees, they were more concerned with the appearance and the status than truly following God's commandments. So we see a lot of times people are more concerned with their their status in society. You're a pastor, so you want everybody to see status that you have, but you don't want to let them see the compassion person or the person of this. You're more worried about those type of things. We have rules, we have things that are set in place, but you're more concerned with your status, and you're not willing to follow what you're supposed to. You don't show the standard of what you want people to see, and that's the one thing. This is a spark reminder for us all to examine our own heart and motives, ensuring that we are not falling into a trap of hypocrisy. Meaning, just because, just like some of us, we other people, so there's people that go to church every day. There's people that do church all day long. They're in church all day long. And then there's people that just go to church for just that moment, just that day, and that's it. We can't condemn people because they go to church this Sunday and they go to church that Sunday. Sometimes things happen, but there are people that do that. There are people that do that. They are not that. But then also too, when they do that, some of these same ones that do that, they go to church on this Sunday, and then they don't go to church this Sunday, and they don't go to church the following Sunday, and they don't go to church next Sunday. But yet they're the ones who want to always preach to everybody else. And so that's what he's saying. Examine yourself. Um, Make sure I don't condemn anybody who had probably said, "Well, I walked away from the church because of that." You know, people have hurt me. The members within the church, or the congregation had hurt me. The backbiting that's in church, the gossip that sits in church. This is what hurts us. there should never be a moment in church where we're gossiping about each other. Gossip is something that should not be found in church. We should be healers. If we're going to walk this walk in this footsteps of Christ, we should have this compassion. This this compassion. A lot of times I have this moment where I get very frustrated at times, and it's like certain things seem like I get irritated. It looks like I'm irritated about something from somebody else, but it's actually the opposite. It's something that is bugging me, and here comes something that's outside that doesn't pertain to what's bugging me, but a person may come and I'll try to tell them, no, it's not you, it's what I'm dealing with, and it's a frustrating. And a lot of times it it hurts the other person, and it's not an intention, but it's just sometimes those people walk in on that, and sometimes we need to say, no, 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 you're not. It's not you. It's it's me. I'm dealing with something, and I can't figure it out, or it's something that is really bugging me, and it's kind of getting stressful. And sometimes we also, when we walk in on people on that in that realm, we should say, well, is there something I could maybe help you with? And a lot of times we have our own self where we'll say, no, no, I'll figure it out, but I thank you for us trying to assist me in it. And that would be much better than being, well, you could at least said something a little bit different, or or how most people say, you know. But also, as we're gonna go a little more further, and we're a community that's living, a church community, uh, living, and we're Christ-like, that we're trying to be Christ-like. And we're going to look in the book of Acts, chapter 2, verse 42 to 47. Chapter 2, verse 2 to 47. So I want to go to, 42. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at verse 41, and then I'll just go to 48. So in Acts, in the book of Acts, which is Paul, Paul is speaking of the Acts of the Apostles, rather. This is what it's called. And here we say, so then those who have received the word were baptized, and that day there were added about 3,000 souls. That's what when Peter told them to go and be baptized. And everybody was baptized. These people were baptized. Now, 42. They were continually devoting themselves to the apostles' teachings and to fellowship, to the breaking of bread, and to prayer. 43. Everyone kept feeling a sense of awe. So that's a sense of a good. This awe is much of a good awe in one sense. Now it's when you go awe, it means a little bit different in this day and age. And many wondered and signs. They had many wonders of signs, and then were taking place through the apostles. So Peter, James, John, um, Paul, Barnabas, all these apostles, they would, have their time to lay hands on people and things like that during their journeys and their missionary work, especially Paul and Peter at the same time traveling around, laying their hands on sick people, healing sick people, and things like that. So people were having an awe and this, and these were various wonders and signs during this time. And all the believers were together and had all things in common. They all had things in common. and they would sell their property and possessions and share them with all, to the extent that anyone had need, day by day, continuing with and one mind in the temple, and breaking bread from house to house. They were taking their meals together with gladness and sincerity of heart, praising God and having favor with all the people. And the Lord was adding to their numbers day by day those who were being saved. In this chapter here, this is what the thing is. What happens when you are going to when we're all coming together? We break bread. We get to know each other. We get to share each other's pains, each other's joys, each other's triumphs. And that's the way it should be in a church. It's not just I come to church on Sunday, I see you, and that's it. I don't see you no more. I don't speak to you ever again. I don't really know you. And sometimes that do happen because people, once again, some of us don't share our numbers, some of us don't share our information with people. But when we come together in the as we say, in the body of Christ, in that building that we call the church, we are to be sharing the burden. If there's a person that lost someone, we're in the church and is made aware that that person lost someone. We should show the compassion that that person has lost someone. We should show the compassion that this person is lost, and give them the comfort of you're among friends, you're among family. That's what a church should be. The church should be the extension um, of family, an extension of a person who may not have a family, but when they come to church, they're among family. They shouldn't feel like they're outcasts, and that should be across the board, whatever church they go to. And that's the way we should live it, but a lot of times we don't. We we tend to keep ourselves to ourselves, or we tend to just stick, as in today's society we will say, the clique. We have a group of people that's in church, that only that group. They mainly only deal with that group. They may shake your hand when you come in, but they're not really going to really be sincere about what they're saying to you, or when they're talking to you. They're just going to talk to you just because, oh, everybody else is talking, so I'm just going to talk to this person, and then I'm going to go on about my business. And that's what it is. Even the pastor should have a awe in this, where when he talks to his congregation, shaking the hands of his congregation, checking in on his congregation, and things like that, making sure everybody's okay, making sure everybody's good, letting them know that, oh, sister so and so, she's having a little rough time. So if y'all get a chance, if you do have her number, please reach out to her, and give her a warm hello, or whatever you can provide for her. Now, it goes to say that don't just. A lot of time, for me, I have a sort of like a code. If I don't have nothing to say in certain people's situation, I'll just tell them I can I can't feel your pain. I can't, whatever it is they're going through. I may say, well, I can't feel you. I really don't understand your pain, but I hope that you find some relief in whatever you're going through, and I hope you can find some help. But if if you can let me know what maybe you need, and if I can help you in that area, I'll help. If they lost some loved one, depending on who they lost, I may say, well, I'm sorry for your loss, but I'm not going to tell them I know how you feel, because if you lost a child, I can't tell you how you lost. I can't tell you I can't say to you, I know how you feel, because I haven't never lost a child. Now, if you lost your mom, you lost your dad, I can tell you I can say I understand your pain, because I've had that. that feeling. I've had those feelings. If you lost an uncle or great uncle, I can tell you how I can answer that. But if you never lost something, you can't you can't tell a person you know how you feel. You know how they feel because you never lost them. So we have to be more sincere in church. We must watch the words we speak and watch the things we say and do. So I have a thing also when we coach football, when I was head coach at various times. And I think my coach that came across me and him when we started coaching. I think the second year me and him coached together, he started instituting a thing where we would go on Mondays and we would break what he said, let's go break bread so we get to know each other. So we didn't just know each other on a football field. We knew each other very personally. We would share numbers, call each other, talk to each other, and we would have a very good time in doing that. Very good time. And it became such a tradition that we did it all the time. We even invited the president of the organization to come and break bread with us. And we got to learn each other off the field and on the field, where people outside of our coaching staff could not penetrate or say bad things about any one of us. And that was what sort of like the church should be. We break bread, we share information, we share some of our personal triumphs, some of our personal gains. And even to this day, I call Coach Tim up and I say, hey Coach Tim, man, I miss those moments that we had. And he said, yeah. I those days I used to be able to cheat because he does bodybuilding. So he says I'd be able to cheat. I'd be able to cheat on sometime on my diet that I have. But we really share bread. I still speak to him. I still speak to other coaches, and I call other coaches at time to time. And that is something that is a true sense of a family, a church, and that's what the church should be, more of a family. When we break bread, we fellowship together. We do this. This is the example that we are to be called to follow, to be a church that is truly live out the teachings of Jesus Christ, meaning that we share information with each other. We enjoy each other's company. We not just only you just only see me on Sunday. You see me. We can see each other. But sometimes I know life has us in this day and age. Life has us a little separated from each other. But now that we have the communication of Facebook and some of the other social media, we can stay connected that way. And a lot of times I have various church members on my Facebook page that I'll hit up. I'll see their things, I'll hit up and I'll give them a nod or a hello or a good morning. And that's what we should be doing, learning each other. So we are a church outside of the church. Um Also, what we're going to also say, I want us to look at Peter. Now, Peter had wrote at least three epistles that he wrote, three letters at least he wrote to various locations that on his journey. Good morning, Prophetess Ella. How you doing? Um, we're going to look at um, Peter, and we're going to look at Peter 4:17. Peter 4:17, and with that, we're going to look at what Peter in Peter First Peter chapter 4 verse 17. And what Peter is saying here is that for it is time for judgment to begin with the household of God, and if it begins with us first, what will be the outcome for those who do not obey the gospel of God? So I'm going to double back to at least um 15. And like I said, anytime you have just some you have like a scripture that says First Peter 4:17. What I was always was I later earlier told by other pastors to give you more context. Read at least 2 or 3 verses above and 2 or 3 verses below. Get more of a context. So what I'm gonna do is back up to verse 15, and then hopefully we can get a little bit more content here. Maybe I'll go to 17, and yeah, I'll go to 17. If in 14, I'm sorry, 14. Yeah, 14. No, you know what? Let me go to 13, because 13 sounds a little bit better as I'm looking at it. But to the degree, and this is Peter, but to the degree that you share the suffering of Christ, keep on rejoicing so that at the at the revelation of his glory, you may also rejoice and be overjoyed. 14. If you are insulted for the name of Christ, you are blessed because the Spirit of glory and of God rest upon you. Make sure that none of you suffer as as he says here, he says as a murderer or a thief or an evildoer or a troublesome meddler. But if anyone suffers as a Christian, he is not to be ashamed about, I'm sorry, not to be ashamed, but is to be glorify God in the name. For it is time for judgment to begin with the household of God. And if it begins with us first, what will be the outcome for those who do not obey the gospel of God? And if it is without difficulty that the righteous is saved, what will become of the godless man and the sinner? So what Peter is saying here is that when people suffer, we should also suffer as well. We should have a little suffering in our hearts as well. We should have a little suffering in our hearts as well in this. And we shouldn't be ashamed to be insulted. We shouldn't feel ashamed that we're followers of Christ or anything like that. We should be ashamed. But judgment will always start with us first because we are the example. It's just like I always go back to football or sports because of my years of playing football, my years of coaching and everything. When you're a coach, everybody, when they look at your team and they see the way your team moves or to see the way your team is, if your team is out of order, chaotic and various things like that, people will say, well, this manager must not be a good manager because look at the way the team acts, look at the way the team is, look at this, everybody's talking about everybody and this and that. But when you have a manager that kind of puts the team in a perspective way where they show their love and their compassion for each other, now it shows a different light of the person. The judgment of the leadership, the judgment of the players is within the team. And it's the same thing with the church. Judgment is going to start with us. Judgment is going to start from the pastor on down through the church. So everything through the church, everything is going to be judged with us first. So when judgment comes, he's just not going to judge this and then he goes to the church last. He's going to go to the church first because you were supposed to set the example. It's just like mommy and daddy, they're supposed to set the examples in the household. Um, that's just the way. it's supposed that's the way it should be. We set the examples. We set our kids on how to compassion. We set our kids on how to show the love. The same thing. The pastor should have show the compassion for his congregation, so that people within his congregation will see. Well, pastor shakes hands with everybody that come in. I'm going to shake hands with the people that's around me, to the left of me, to the right of me, behind me, the ones in front of me. I'm going to tap people on the shoulder. And when I go to church today, that's what we have one young lady. She comes over. She gives me a hug. She gives my wife a hug. She gives my son a hug. Pastor Lee, he shakes my hand. He always says, "Young man." I normally have a joke with a couple of my friends. Coach Stan, I always call him old man, and he calls me old man back. But Pastor Lee always says, "How you doing, young man?" I said, "No, I'm fine." And I have the other pastor that I shake hands. Minister Larry, he gives me Uncle Michael, Uncle Mike, which is good. Sometimes he calls me Pastor Matthews. Doug, who also comes over, shakes everybody there, even the kids. For me, kids is my joy. My nieces and nephew there, I tap them on their head. Or the ones that I know, I tap them on their head. Or some of the other kids, I just say hi and give them a little nudge, just to let them know, for me, you're loved by me. You're not separated from me. You're part of me. I'm taking a ownership of you in the church. We'll come to the same church. I'm going to take ownership of you. I come to your church and I there for a while. Even if I'm there for a day, I'm going to take ownership in those people that's there. And that's what we need to do within the church. So people don't become church. They don't feel church hurt. Don't pass judgment on anybody. We shouldn't be passing judgment on anybody. Here in this, that judgment begins with the household of God, which means the church. We must hold ourselves accountable. And that's one thing. We all must be accountable. We must be accountable to each other. The pastor must be accountable to us, and we must be accountable to the pastor, when we must be accountable to each other for our actions, and ensure that we are not causing harm to others through our hypocrisy. We don't want to cause any harm when we're doing things in church. We don't want to cause anybody to feel, oh, I don't want to go back to that church. There's churches I have been to where I could hear people talk about what a person is wearing, but instead of, sometimes we say it, and we're human. We like, wow, look what they're wearing, and you may want to walk over and say, I don't think that person. We've all been there. We've all done it, but we have to kind of pull ourselves back and say, I gotta kind of conform from that way. I gotta change that way. The next time somebody's like that, address it, talk to them. Young man always calls me Pops. Me and him stood outside one day at church and we talked, and we had a good, nice little 2 3 minute, I think 2 3 minute conversation. He was, I could see there was some pain within him, but I think by me talking to him and just standing there, not trying to rush inside, and just standing there and talking to him, he felt better. He began to feel better for himself. He began to feel real good about himself. And that's a great thing. That's a great, great thing, what we see here. Yeah, that's a great thing, you want. When you have those people like that, you want to show them compassion. You want to show them love. And you don't want to show harm. You don't want to say, oh, you just giving some old thing and going about it. Your hypocrisy. You try to make yourself look better than them. No, I'm not going to try to look better than you. I feel pain the same way you feel pain. And I want you to talk to me and lift me up. Don't put me down. And that's what we do. A lot of us do in church. We put people down. We need to lift a lot of people up. We must strive to live out the beatitude, or beatitude, in Matthew 5:3 and 9, being humble, merciful, and peacemakers. Now, that beatitude is Christ. I mean, yes, I said it correctly. Christ's Sermon on the Mountain. That's where he says, "Blessed is this person," and in that beatitude, Christ is on the mountain. He sits. He sits on that rock, and then he goes into the beatitude. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the gentle, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be satisfied. Also, verse 7, blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. And then the very last one, blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the sons of God. And then there's one more, 10. They didn't put 10 in there. But what he's saying here is that when they have, in other words, the person that is poor in spirit, the person that is poor in spirit, they're 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 kind of they're lacking, and we want to come and uplift them and give them uplift their spirit. And then the ones who mourn, those are the ones who have lost someone, and we wanna and that we want to make sure that they're comforted. When you lose someone, we want to come to them, and that time when people will you bring food to them. Hey, you need to eat. You sit there, and you may not even say nothing. You just sitting with the person. You're just sitting, and the person is, whatever they're going through, and they may look and see you sitting, and they say, he or she could be doing something else, but they're sitting here with me. And not to not to think anything, but sometimes that is more comforting than somebody saying something. It's like a person in their head will say, well, they could have been doing something else, but they're sitting right here with me. They haven't left. They just sitting there. You're comforting. And then we have the one who is thirsting for hunger. They're thirsting for their hungering and thirsting for righteousness, and they find it because they're really striving to be a good person. People who are gentle, they inherit the earth because of their gentleness, their kindness. And then we have the one who shows, they're the merciful. They're the ones who shows a lot of mercy. So when the judgment time comes, mercy will be granted on them because they showed mercy. These are the things that is there. And then we have the peacemakers. The ones when we have these arguments, they come up there and they calm everything down and kind of smooth over the rough edges and things like that. They smooth it over for this. And so, as we say, so as we reflect on the ways in which the church has hurt people through its hypocrisy, let us also remember that we are all called to be agents of healing and reconciliation. So let us start trying to heal all of our churches, no matter where you at, no matter what church you're in, no matter what denomination you are, outside of the denominations, across boundaries. Let's change the dynamics of our church. Let us seek forgiveness for the way in which we have fallen short and committed ourselves to living of out our faith in a way that is authentic and true. Meaning, you say you're a Christian, you say you're a follower of Christ, let that show. As Christ has said, you be the light of the world and the salt of the earth. Let it show. Let's show that You are living out your true faith. You're not walking. You're not a phony holier than thou, or like some will say, the holy roller. You truly have a authenticness about you when you're true. As the young kids say today, we're going to try in the church to keep it 100. Um, in my conclusion, I'm going to say this. May we be a church that reflects the love and grace of God in all that we do, showing compassion and empathy to all who come through our doors. Let us be the light in the darkness, shining brightly for all to see the transformative power of the gospel. And with that, I'm going to say amen. And with that, like I said, we're not going to try to keep that. I'm not going to try to keep you long. Now it's time for me to get ready and go hear the word from Pastor Lee, and you get to hear the word from him, and then you enjoy his ministry as well. And that's a part of what we do as also ministers. With me going to his church, that's me breaking bread with him and getting ministered by him. And then when I get an opportunity, I go to Pastor Rick's church and I break bread with him. And I come back to Pastor Lee, and then I come here with y'all on Sunday mornings early at 8 o'clock. And we break bread also with our Bible studies. But this is a 4-part series with part 1. And let's work on getting our churches being less church hurt. Let's really be more compassionate and loving and kind. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, may each of y'all have a blessed Sunday, and may y'all all have a great time today. Remember, keep your word.